Hey everyone, one moment. It is October 5th, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host, being powered by Kretschmann Media. What a reaction show we're about to have. Just honestly, I feel that even though the topics may not be vast, I may not be talking and covering about 8 different games, but we're looking at, I don't know, probably some of the longer segments, just because, funny enough, we talked about Penn State and Texas just last week, and we talked about how they shouldn't be in the top 10. Little did I know that both of them would lose on Saturday, and both of them would be outside of the top 25 by the end of the college football Saturday. So we're going to talk about Penn State today. We're going to talk about Florida and Texas. And then to just finish off the show, I think, depending if we have the time to talk about some actual national title contenders, kind of do a check-in per se before we get too deep into the October slate. We're going to be talking a little bit about what contenders are real and what contenders are not. So no better way than to dive into Penn State and UCLA. I thought I knew James Franklin. I thought most of us knew what James Franklin is, what Penn State as a program are, that they're going to be able to beat the teams that they should be beating, and they're going to lose to the teams that they probably will lose to. It's the whole notion of you can't beat them in the top 10, but if you're outside of that, you're probably losing to Penn State. It's because of their identity. It's because they have very good talent on this program, and everything had built up to 2025. We all knew this. You brought back Drew Aller. He didn't go to the NFL draft. He stayed around. You have Andy Kotelnicki again. Once again, an offensive coordinator. You have continuity with the OC quarterback. We talk about it all the time, how imperative that is to success. We talk about it with Texas A&M and Colin Klein and Marcel Reed. That continuity is huge. You bring back 2 tailbacks that are going to be at bare minimum day 2 picks on the NFL draft. That's primarily because running back isn't as valued with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Then you have a defense that sure did lose Abdul Carter. But then you bring in Jim Knowles, a defensive coordinator that just won a national championship with Ohio State, and that was the core, the centerpiece of what was so successful outside of Jeremiah Smith, obviously just frying defenses, but their defense is what I think won them a championship, that turnaround in the college football playoff. All of these ingredients. And then you have this setup, and I almost want to take it as what we saw with the whiteout game expanded across the season, because it's starting to become a theme where Penn State has the quarterback continuity, they have the talent on the roster, they have seniority, they have good coaches, or at least we thought were good coaches across the board with Franklin, Kotelnicki, and Knowles. If you take what was supposed to happen with the whiteout, you can spread it across the season. Because the whiteout, they had the bye week, they had the night whiteout, which is something they didn't have for a while because of Big Noon Kickoff. They have the team, they have the roster, they have a team traveling all the way from the West Coast all the way to Penn State. You lose that one, so you have to follow it up. And the makeup of a team is truly defined by how you lose and how you react to that loss. I understand you have to travel to California after having that big emotional loss in overtime. You were right there to come all the way back against Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. You were that close. But you still have to have the makeup and the maturity as a program to go beat an 0-4 UCLA program. 0-4. That is the first time in 40 years a top 10 team has lost to an 0-4 program. 40 years. It became a conversation where we're talking about James Franklin and is he ever going to get over the hump? And I talked about it a little bit today where I said it is much easier to have someone go up and grab your ankle versus you do the same. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about James Franklin. It's much easier or more likely that Penn State was to lose to, say, one of the teams like a UCLA, maybe even a Michigan State, a team that they shouldn't be losing to. That's more likely than them going up and getting an Ohio State, Michigan back in their prime, or even an Oregon at this point. And it's not even the beginning of the conversation with James Franklin. It is now we are in the middle of it. And I really don't see a path where you go around and you say, yep, he's our guy. Maybe you're just that afraid of bottoming out because it is a risky decision. It's kind of like say, for example, I talked about it on TikTok where I said a comparison for James Franklin is kind of like Dak Prescott with the Cowboys. Now, obviously, I said this before they had lost to UCLA, but I still think it applies here. You have a great quarterback. James Franklin, for what he was able to build at Penn State, was a great transition to build this program to a 10-win. Now it's probably going to be 9 wins, but a higher level program, almost getting to a national championship last year. But do you feel like he's going to get you over the hump or just right on the cusp? 85%, 70% of what your goal is. And are you okay with that? But that all goes away if you lose to UCLA. Now, we don't do what Josh Pate does, which is the Sarah McLachlan special, playing the sad music because of how bad they got beat down. I'm just going to present the facts because the facts state that not only did Penn State lose to an 0-4 UCLA program, but there is additional context that make it even more egregious than it already was. Because on surface level, you just see, well, they had to go on the road to California. They lost to a UCLA team that's bad. No. They had an interim head coach that had 2 practices. The first time he's ever calling plays. There's 2 instances in that football game where he forgot to bring the mic down to call the play. He is of 33 years of age. 2 practices to install what they want to do against a Penn State program that isn't just a bunch of fresh faces trying to gel together for the first time. They have the continuity there, very similar to what we were talking about with Clemson. Not only was it just like a close game by the end, it was 27-7 at halftime, breaking a 34 straight wins against unranked teams for James Franklin. I've already mentioned the first time an 0-4 team to beat a top 10 AP team in 40 years. Mind you, UCLA also was 10 of 16 on third down. They outrushed Penn State 280 yards to 127. They out-timed them, if that's the way you want to call it, with time of possession of 39 minutes and 17 seconds to 20 minutes and 43. When you lose a game like that, there's additional context. And that context right there, it says you didn't just lose to UCLA. You got manhandled by UCLA. A team that lost to UNLV, a team that lost to New Mexico. No disrespect to those programs, but you understand exactly what I'm saying when I say those are the programs that are beating UCLA and Penn State walks into town and gets pushed around. There's only so much that an interim head coach magic can do when we're talking about turning a program around. Maybe it's a Power 4 win. Teams don't do this. Now, understandably so, Nico Imalala was the better quarterback. Drew Aller, I've said it at least for a year and a half, specifically when I dove into his tape, that was like the jump that he took last year. The guy doesn't look comfortable playing quarterback. He looks like a guy that is going through each step of playing quarterback. Very similar to what we are seeing with Arch right now, where it is not kind of flowing with the game. That was the difference between him and Dante Moore, honestly. Dante looked comfortable playing the game of football, looked smooth, where it seems kind of, all right, we're going from one, we're going to snap the ball, we're going to take our 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, then we're going to look here, we're going to make our decision, then we're going to look here, make our decision, versus just, we're just going to go. If I take one extra step, I take one extra step, but I'm going to get the ball out. And that's something that I think has limited Drew Aller, because at what point do we stop using the narrative of, well, he does have the wide receivers? Maybe they don't. Maybe Trevor Pena was not worth the money that they probably paid out. But that was supposed to be the big fix. And I think one of the red flags I did think about when watching that game was, as soon as the transfer portal opened, a bunch of Penn State wide receivers dipped out. Now, were they good? Probably not. I don't know what, I believe his name's Harrison Wallace doing right now. But I also think that it was a crutch for a lot of people to say, well, Drew Aller, he didn't have the wide receivers. He makes some beautiful throws, so let's give him grace. I can't give him grace anymore. I wasn't giving him grace before. So much credit to UCLA. And if you have not taken the time to go watch how they celebrated that game, it's like straight out of a movie. Carrying the coach on their shoulders. A 33-year-old. There's a picture of him when he was a kicker, I believe, getting carried off. 10 or 11 years later, doing the same thing. Guy forgot to call in plays, and James Franklin got out-coached by him with 2 practices in. It truly is one of those things where I don't know if I should credit the UCLA coach for being able to do that, or look at James Franklin, the tenured guy, the guy that's supposed to be able to do it this year, and just go and say, what happened? And you could see it's beginning to bubble in terms of the pressure that this Penn State program has. You see Drew Aller snapping back at some reporters. Like, I could not believe my eyes when I saw that they were up 27-7 at halftime. I didn't even predict this game. Didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be anywhere close. If anything, I was potentially looking at, for my best bets, to take Penn State to cover. Thank God I didn't do that. But I think it's time to recap it all, just to say, Penn State, you have to change it. Franklin was able to rebuild the program from the ground up. He deserves more credit than he probably will get. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you pull things like this. And if you're not the guy that's going to go win a championship, and that's what you want Penn State to be, as a national championship winning head coach and program, I don't think Franklin's the guy. The Arch Manning thing is so peculiar. Let's talk about Florida beating Texas, the number 9 team in the country. Once again, Texas cannot beat a Power 4 program. They have not been able to do it in 2025. Got a lot of pushback from people saying that Texas should not be in the top 10. I was told that they should be in the top 5 because hypothetically they would beat Indiana by 3 touchdowns. There's tweets out there that says it by Texas faithful and verified ones at that, so it doesn't take far to find those tweets. They also believe that they were going to shut out Florida. And the reality is Texas does not have an identity. I said it after the Ohio State game. I've been saying it for weeks at this point. They do not have an identity. And so they don't know what to do when the offense starts to stutter out. At the bare minimum last year with Wisner, they could run the football a little bit. They could lean with the offensive line. They had that boa constrictor style offense where yeah, it's only an 8, 9, maybe even a 10-point lead, but it feels like 21 because the defense is so damn good that the offense is just going to basically limp their way to 23 points, and you're not going to be able to score 23 because the defense is being so good. And Quinn Ewers is going to have a moon ball here and there, but at the end of the day, he's just going to run an RPO offense, and you're going to sit there and think, well, if we get a more dynamic athlete, a better arm in there, someone that's not as injury prone, maybe Arch Manning can elevate this offense to what we think it should be. And he's just not hitting his layups. He looks like a quarterback that is a deer in the headlights going into these bright spots. There's moments of pure brilliance. And it's honestly when he's not having to think, when it's more the pass rush is coming in so quick, he has to just let it rip. And truthfully, I highly recommend go watching the Film Guy Network, his breakdown of his game against, I believe it was Sam Houston State. And it just details all the issues that Arch has been having mechanically, not just saying, oh, his throwing motion's weird. No, why he's doing what he's doing. But to the original point of talking about the identity, Texas doesn't know what they want to be. Do they want to run the football? Well, they can't because the offensive line's not that good. Arch, do you want to try to throw the ball? Well, he's inconsistent and the offensive line still isn't good. When you don't have a good offensive line, you really can't build anything of substance because you're not going to have time to throw and you're not going to get push. And when you're going against a senior defense that Florida does have, that's been the one consistent of this Florida program has been their defense all season. And they were able to get push consistently with 6 sacks. Now, part of it, I'm not going to do the same thing that I did with like Auburn's offensive line. Jackson Arnold held the ball too long. Arch holds the ball way too long. He sits in the pocket as if he has all the time in the world until it's just too little too late with 6 sacks. He took an egregious one trying to go win the football game, one that you just couldn't do. If I was told that Texas was to only have 52 rushing yards, I would have thought Florida blew them out. And honestly, Florida was manhandling for the most part, and Texas's talent kept them in this game. We have to talk about Florida more because they're the ones that won the football game. And Texas just continuously disappoints. And we'll talk about them on probably Tuesday for the Red River game. Can't believe that they're going to be unranked against an Oklahoma program that's probably going to start Michael Hawkins. Venables doesn't believe they're going to have Matier, but it's to be seen with a rivalry spot. I doubt Venables is going to make a decision until literally game day. Florida on offense. It's the tale between two varying levels of experience. You have a Florida defense with plenty of experience, and then you had the youngins on the offense. DJ Lagway. Obviously, you have Dallas Wilson, who we'll talk about here in a minute. And then Jaden Ball. Thank the Lord they actually ran the ball with Jaden Ball. Because the talent that I've been seeing on film for weeks at this point, but he only gets 10 carries, was the most frustrating thing about Florida out of anything else. Even Billy Napier's play calling, but it kind of goes to that point of just give the kid the ball. When you broke down this game before it even happened, you could say that Florida was efficient running the football, averaging 6 yards per carry, but they wouldn't do it. They refused to. And you can maybe make the argument that they'd be down in some games and they didn't want to run the ball when they should be passing. I get that. But Jaden Ball, especially in that Miami game, you're sitting there going, why weren't we giving him the rock in any way or which fashion as possible? The dude's an incredible athlete. I know he's listed at 230 pounds. I don't think he's playing at it because the way that he's moving and still being hyper athletic, you can't guard him on the outside, especially with these outside runs. And as a Texas A&M fan, I am petrified to play him. This was easily the best game for DJ Lagway. I think this is the guy that most benefited from a bye week. I could make an argument that maybe Arch would have benefited if they had played Florida just the week before. I don't know if he needed a bye because if he's truly not injured, I think he would have greatly benefited from some sort of momentum that you saw from the Sam Houston State game. But I don't know if it really mattered if the offensive line's going to play that bad. Dallas Wilson, 5-star kid, 6 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Lagway, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns. To Dallas Wilson's point, I mean, The dude's incredible for a true freshman. Dallas Wilson is going to be a problem. And if he can become the go-to guy that Lagway is comfortable with and just get him the ball in any which way or fashion, that's a grown man stuck in a true freshman body. That's the next iteration of great wide receivers, the same way that we were talking about Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. It's really going to be DeCorian Moore and Dallas Wilson as the next iteration in, I believe, the 2028 draft? Maybe even 2029. I could get my numbers mixed up here, but Florida knew what they wanted to be going into this game. They wanted to run the football. They did it successfully. They wanted to take shots downfield and exploit what was more than likely an overrated secondary with Texas. Texas continuously shot themselves in the foot, whether it be sacks, whether it be turnovers, whether it be penalties. And Florida, yes, the game started to slip away a little bit, but they held on tight. You knew instantly that Florida wanted to be the team that was going to impose their will running the football. I believe, it felt like 9 straight carries for Jaden Ball to start the game. And Texas, once they got the ball into their hands, they really started to look around and saying, well, I guess we're going to throw the ball here. We're going to run a little bit, but then we only have 52 rushing yards. The passing game's a question mark. The offensive line's a question mark. So Texas, truly, what are they wanting to be? And you don't want to figure it out next week against Venables. I think rightfully so, they're not a top 25 team. Penn State included. Both of them do not have a Power 4 win. And what is it? The second week of October? What do you want from me? Tried to tell y'all. These are not top 10 teams. You're basing it on the brand and you're basing it on preseason expectations. That's the truth. Let me see. Can I potentially find my best bets? That's what I'm curious about as we make a quick transition to the top national championships. I'm seeing if I can find it, guys. So hold on for one moment. Yeah, but I did say it's Billy Napier is over. I did say that. With Billy Napier, though, to that point, we'll talk about that while I keep finding this. Should Florida move off of Billy Napier? I think that's the fair assessment, I guess, of what people are trying to say at this point. I don't think what he just pulled off warrants him to keep his job. I think that's a fair assessment. Is it not? Because we're talking about a head coach that needs to string along multiple ones. If he walks into Kyle Field next weekend and wins, I think you have to give him the job. You start to look around and you say, well, I mean, we had the most difficult schedule in probably God's green earth for 2 years at this point. I think you could see what he can pull off. And maybe it's just for keeping DJ Lagway. I don't know. Maybe this is something I'll talk a little bit more on the Tuesday show. Doesn't seem I can find my best bet, so I apologize. So, who are the 4 programs that I believe that can win a national championship? Those are what I think is a championship contender. Do I believe that you have any chance, or more of a realistic chance, to win a national championship? And I think there's 4 programs. We'll honorable mention with 1. Going into the season, it's brutal. I'll be honest, it's kind of brutal. I had Clemson, I had Penn State, I had Texas, I had Alabama. I'm just going to take a moment. How bad that prediction turned out. But that's why they're preseason predictions. I mean, you don't expect to go well on every single one of them. If I want a victory lap, a good preseason take, I could talk about Georgia Tech. I could talk about Texas A&M. But I want to be always transparent on the bad ones, and that's a bad one right there. So who are the 4 that I think are now national championship contenders? Number 1's Miami. Miami has everything you're looking for. Do I have a blind faith that Mario Cristobal is going to always have his team ready on Saturdays? No, but it's growing, and it's getting better, and it's maturing. I feel like this program feels mature. You have the defense that can beat you on any given Saturday. The passing offense, the rushing offense, it's really pick your poison. If you want to get into a rock fight with this team with Ruben Bain, sure, go ahead and try to beat us that way. If you want to try to out surgical us and try to play ball control football with Carson Beck against you, that's going to be a tough day in the office, or maybe even a shootout. I have full faith that Miami's going to match up in a shootout. They can beat you in many different ways, and they have the higher tier talent that can excel into a national championship run. Number 2 is Ohio State. I don't know how Julian Sayin is not being talked about more. I understand he hasn't been playing like the top tier opponents, but quietly he's been extremely efficient. Yeah, you have Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, all these guys, CJ Donaldson. You have a great situation around you, but I almost feel like he's becoming a little undervalued in these conversations. Now, Ohio State's going to have a great opportunity against Illinois this week. That could be the statement game for Julian Sayin, but he's been surgical. And I honestly feel like Ohio State, they haven't kind of leaned into like what we've seen with the past Ohio State iterations with like guys like Justin Fields, CJ Stroud. That's a long time ago. So they don't need to rip the ball and try to score 70 every single week. But Sayin is playing within the structure of the offense. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. And he's still excelling and putting up great statistics. And they're winning football games comfortably. To be fair, Minnesota was banged up. That's to each their own. But they found a way to win against Washington, which I thought is a quality win. I was quite impressed with Ohio State. And obviously the defense is incredible. They have all the pieces on the defense. Like, I undervalued Ohio State. Right hand up, I was wrong on that. I think that they're fully capable of winning a national championship. Oregon is still very strong because I got to give them credit for walking into the whiteout. I'm not saying that Penn State talent-wise isn't a top 25 team, because they are. It's still quality to go across the country, win a night whiteout game. It definitely takes a little bit of a hit knowing what happened the following week. But you could also honestly say with Oregon that they may have broke the mental side of Penn State, which is a wild statement to say, but it's honestly probably the truth. You have Dante Moore, which out of all the quarterbacks that we talked about with Beck, Sayin, you could make an argument that maybe Moore is better. Probably not better than Beck, at least at the college level at this point in his career. But they have DeCorian Moore, Mateo Ugalele, butchered that. Sorry, it's been a long day. Defense is great. Like I said when we were talking about the recap with Oregon, this is the most Dan Lanning team I've seen up to this point. That's a scary thought because I think this is the most physical version of Oregon that we've seen up to this point. Number 4 is Alabama. I had to keep one of my guys from the preseason, and Alabama just seems like a team that's getting stronger. We didn't talk about the Vanderbilt-Alabama game. We'll probably talk about that on Tuesday, but this is an Alabama team that continues to get stronger and stronger each and every week. Jam Miller coming back, the way that they were running the football is a great sign that maybe we're talking about a team that is finding multiple ways of winning, because Ty Simpson looks like the most pro-ready quarterback in the entire college football space. They have 3 wide receivers that could be a wide receiver 1 on a lot of different teams. Jam Miller, I've already talked about. The offensive line seems to be getting stronger, and the defense is playing at a high level. The talent didn't go anywhere, and there could be very well a world where that was the worst version against Florida State that we'll see all season, and that was the best version of Florida State that we'll see all season, and it just happened on week 1. Honorable mention is to Georgia. Georgia, with Kirby Smart and their national championship winning pedigree, just trust that. It's until proven otherwise. They're going to get Texas at home. They're going to get a bunch of different matchups that are very favorable for them. They have a pretty clear, distinct path to the SEC championship. And I think that they're always going to be in every single game. They're going to wake up for 90% of the games unless they're playing Alabama. I just didn't forget that Georgia is a very damn good program. I just can't confidently say that they're in these conversations yet. With that in mind, guys, we hit the 30-minute mark. We've had a great boost of numbers recently. We're almost at 200 subs. The goal is to get to 1,000 by the end of the season. If anything, maybe a little bit more. Who knows? But with that in mind, I do really want to take a moment and just say, like, we've had a great run of games and videos have been pumping out. I can't implore you, the logo that you see in the top right with Crutchman Media, they have done just such fantastic work with us. And the videos are only going to get faster, they're going to get better. So with that in mind, I do recommend, like, if you are a big fan of the NFL, which is on my television screen to the right of me right now, we have stuff for that. CEO Sports Show is a great drop. And then the NBA is coming up. If you're an NBA fan, we're going to have channels for that. Go check out Dub's Room. It's on the channels page. If you just click on the Stadium Pulse, it's going to be on the channels tab. We have that available for you. So if you're a college football fan, though, give it a like, give it a sub. I promise you, I'm going to get your sub sooner or later. But with that in mind, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time.